That brown bottle in your medicine cabinet is doing one job when it could be doing 13. You bought it for cuts and scrapes, or maybe someone put it there before you moved in and you have never once thought to throw it out. 3% hydrogen peroxide, that is it. Less than $2 at any pharmacy in the country. And what it can do across this home, the bathroom, the kitchen, the laundry, the body, is something that nobody selling you a shelf full of specialty sprays has any interest in telling you. We are counting down today. 13 uses tested right here on this homestead, working our way down to number 1. And I will tell you this plainly at the start. Number 1 is on this list because of a night in late autumn when the roads were icy. The nearest emergency room was far, and that brown bottle was the thing I reached for. I will tell you exactly what happened when we get there. Every number between here and there is worth your time, but that one changed how I think about keeping this bottle within arm's reach for the rest of my life. Before the first number, there is one piece worth knowing about why hydrogen peroxide works at all, because if you carry this one idea, everything else on this list will make sense. When hydrogen peroxide contacts organic matter, bacteria, mold, old food residue, fungal growth, it breaks apart and releases oxygen. That oxygen is what does the work. It disrupts and destroys the cellular structure of whatever it contacts. Soap lifts the visible mess off a surface. Hydrogen peroxide kills what the soap leaves behind. That is the whole principle, and it is the reason one bottle does 13 different jobs without you needing to understand any chemistry beyond that single sentence. Drop your location in the comments and tell me whether you have ever used this bottle for anything besides a cut. I read every single one that comes in. And subscribe while you are here, because there is more of this kind of help coming, and I would hate for you to miss what is ahead. The homestead methods I have gathered across the years are collected in my handbook. The QR code is on the screen right now, and the link is in the description below. That is the only time I will bring it up, because the teaching is what matters, and we have 13 numbers to get through. Number 13, cutting through grease and grime on the stovetop. The stovetop accumulates a particular kind of mess that soap and a sponge were not built to handle. Cooked-on grease mixed with food splatter that has been heated and reheated until it bonds to the surface. Fresh spills wipe up easily enough. The trouble is what collects around the burners and in the corners of the surface over weeks of regular cooking, baked in layer by layer until it feels like it belongs there. Spray undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide across the stovetop surface and let it sit for 10 minutes. Then sprinkle a small amount of baking soda over the wet peroxide. It will foam and fizz. Leave that reaction working for another 5 minutes, then scrub with a stiff sponge and wipe clean. The peroxide loosens the grease at the molecular level, while the mild abrasion of the baking soda gives the scrubbing something to work against. Together they cut what neither one manages as well alone. For cast iron grates over gas burners, remove them first and treat them in the sink with the same method. Spray, weight, baking soda, scrub, rinse thoroughly, and dry completely before they go back. Cast iron cannot sit wet. Dry it by hand, rub a thin layer of cooking oil across the surface, and return it to the stove. The old homestead rule for cast iron has always been the same. Clean it, dry it, oil it. Hydrogen peroxide does not change that rule. It just makes the cleaning easier. Number 12, cleaning toothbrushes and whitening teeth. A toothbrush sits in your bathroom every day, collecting what the air in that room carries. Soak toothbrush heads in a small cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide for 15 minutes once a week. Rinse thoroughly with clean water before use. The bacterial buildup that accumulates on bristles between uses is gone, and the brush is actually clean rather than just visually clean. For teeth whitening, dilute hydrogen peroxide to half strength, 1 part peroxide to 1 part water, and use it as a mouthwash. Swish for 60 seconds, do not swallow, and spit. No more than 3 times per week. Over several weeks, you will see a gradual brightening of the enamel surface from the removal of surface staining left by coffee, tea, and food. Do not use it undiluted in your mouth, and do not use it daily. 3 times a week, diluted, rinsed clean afterward. That boundary matters, and staying inside it matters. Number 11. cleaning and deodorizing the toilet without harsh chemicals. Pour half a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide into the toilet bowl and let it sit for 30 minutes without flushing. It sanitizes the bowl surface, kills the bacteria responsible for the staining ring at the water line, and neutralizes the odors that come from that bacterial activity rather than masking them with fragrance. After 30 minutes, scrub and flush. For the seat, the lid, and the base, spray undiluted hydrogen peroxide and wipe clean after 5 minutes. The base and the seat carry more bacterial load than most cleaning routines address, and commercial toilet sprays often leave fragrance residue without doing the deeper sanitation work underneath it. What it will not do is remove heavy mineral deposits or rust staining from iron in the water supply. Those need an acid-based cleaner. For bacterial staining, odor, and sanitation, it works as well as anything on the market at a fraction of the cost. 3 numbers down, let's keep going. 10 more to go. And we are moving into the kitchen next, where the bacteria load in the average home is higher than in any other room, and where that brown bottle earns its place more than anywhere else. Number 10, washing produce. Fruits and vegetables arrive in your kitchen carrying pesticide residue, wax coatings applied during commercial processing, and bacteria picked up during transport and handling. Plain water removes some of this, but not all. Hydrogen peroxide removes considerably more, and the method could not be simpler. Fill your kitchen sink or a large bowl with cold water and add a quarter cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide. Submerge your produce and let it soak for 5 minutes. Rinse thoroughly with clean water afterward. And that rinse is not optional. Do it well. This works on everything from apples and grapes to leafy greens and strawberries. For broccoli, cauliflower, and anything else with an uneven surface where bacteria can hide in the crevices, soaking is more effective than spraying because the water and peroxide get into every fold and hollow that a spray would miss. After soaking and rinsing, the produce keeps longer in the refrigerator. The bacterial load that accelerates spoilage has been reduced, and you will notice it in how long things stay fresh before they turn. The cost of treating a full sink of produce this way is a few cents. The alternative is eating what plain water left behind, which is more than most people realize once they start looking into it. My grandmother washed her garden vegetables in water pulled cold from the creek, which ran over limestone and had its own mineral properties that kept things clean and fresh. We do not have that water in most homes now, but a quarter cup of hydrogen peroxide in a basin of cold water gets to a similar place by a different road. Number 9, freshening the refrigerator, odors and bacteria both. The inside of a refrigerator is cool and enclosed, which slows bacterial growth but does not stop it. Old food residue, spills that were not fully wiped up, the moisture that collects around the door seals, all of it accumulates quietly. Baking soda absorbs odors and is worth keeping in there for that purpose. What it does not do is sanitize effectively. Hydrogen peroxide does both at the same time easily. Empty a shelf or a drawer at a time. Wipe the surface down first with a damp cloth to remove any loose residue. Then spray undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide across the surface and let it sit for 3 to 5 minutes. Wipe the surface clean with a dry cloth. The smell that follows is not a chemical smell. It is closer to no smell at all because what you have removed is the bacteria producing the odor rather than layered fragrance on top of it. Pay particular attention to the rubber door seals, which hold more bacteria than the shelves do, and to the ridges and corners of the crisper drawers where moisture collects and sits. Do this once a month and your refrigerator will smell the way a clean cold pantry shelf smells. The cost for a full refrigerator cleaning this way is about 12 cents. A bottle of branded refrigerator spray runs $4 to $5 and does not sanitize any better. Number 8, removing stains from white fabrics, armpit yellowing and blood. These are two of the most stubborn stains fabric holds, and they respond to hydrogen peroxide better than almost anything else available at a grocery store price. For armpit yellowing on white cotton, make a loose paste of 1 part dish soap, 1 part baking soda, and 1 part hydrogen peroxide. Spread it across the stained area and work it gently into the fabric with your fingers or an old toothbrush. Let it sit in the sun for an hour. Rinse cold and wash as normal. The peroxide oxidizes the stain while the sun does its own bleaching work on the fiber, and the two together accomplish what neither manages as well separately. This is something the mountain women understood without knowing the chemistry behind it. Sun and a simple solution, and the stain lifts. For bloodstains, cold water only, never warm, never hot. Heat sets blood into fabric, and once that happens, the stain belongs to the cloth permanently. Rinse with cold water first to pull out as much as possible. Pour hydrogen peroxide directly onto the remaining stain and let it foam for 3 to 5 minutes. Rinse cold again. Ensure the water is thoroughly chilled. Fresh blood comes out on the first treatment. Dried blood that has been sitting for a day may need 2 or 3 rounds. Always cold, always patient. A plain and honest word about colored fabric. Hydrogen peroxide can lighten pastel and light-dyed cloth. Do not use it undiluted on anything colored without testing a hidden seam first. On true white cotton and linen it is safe. On colors, dilute it, 1 part peroxide to 2 parts water, and test before you commit. Number 7, killing bacteria in the kitchen sink drain. The drain is warm, damp, and receives food particles every single day. That combination creates a reliable environment for bacterial growth that dish soap poured down the drain does not adequately address. What it leaves behind coats the inside walls of the pipe and builds up week after week. Pour half a cup of undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide straight down the drain. Do not chase it with water right away. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. You will hear it fizzing in the pipe. That is the oxygen releasing against the organic buildup on the drain walls, and it is doing exactly what it should. After the fizzing settles, flush with warm water. That is the entire method. We can now see the results. No enzyme cleaner, no drain snake unless there is a real clog, no specialty product. Just the peroxide and a few minutes of patience done once a week. My grandmother poured white vinegar down her drain every few days for the same reason, to keep it honest before it became a problem. She did not know the science of it. She knew the result of not doing it, and that was enough. She knew the result of not doing it, and that was enough. The logic is identical now with hydrogen peroxide, and it goes further against the bacteria than the vinegar did. Now we are at the halfway point of this countdown, and what comes next moves away from the surfaces of the home and closer to the body itself, where hydrogen peroxide earns a different kind of trust, and where the honest limits of what it can and cannot do matter more than anywhere else we have been. Number 6, sanitizing cutting boards. Wood cutting boards are among the worst offenders in the kitchen, and they are the hardest to clean properly. The grain of the wood opens up tiny channels where bacteria from raw meat, raw eggs, and vegetable juices work their way in deep. Hot water and soap clean what is visible on the surface. What lives inside those channels is a different matter entirely. After washing your cutting board the normal way, spray or pour undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide across the entire surface. Let it sit for 5 full minutes. Wipe clean with a cloth or rinse under running water. Do this every time after handling raw chicken or raw meat, and you have a board that is genuinely sanitized rather than just visually clean. The peroxide reaches what the soap cannot. Plastic cutting boards carry the same problem, and in some ways a worse one. The knife marks that accumulate across a plastic surface create grooves that harbor bacteria more effectively than wood grain does, because those grooves are narrow, closed, and hold moisture. The same method works on plastic as on wood. Spray, wait 5 minutes, wipe or rinse. The peroxide does not distinguish between surfaces. What it finds, it friend oxidizes, and it finds what soap leaves behind. A woman in our hollow, a neighbor of my mother's who had kept a farm kitchen for 40 years, used to say that a clean-looking board and a clean board were 2 entirely different things. She scrubbed hers with coarse salt and half a lemon after every use of raw meat, which is an old method that does carry some antimicrobial effect from the acid in the lemon and the abrasion of the salt. Hydrogen peroxide goes significantly further than those other store-bought options. But the instinct behind what she did, the understanding that visible clean is not the same as safe clean, was exactly right, and it is the same instinct that makes this method worth building into a regular habit. Number 5, treating foot fungus and nail discoloration. Foot fungus thrives in warm, damp environments. Shoes, shower floors, the space between toes that never quite dries all the way through. The fungus responsible for athlete's foot and the one behind nail discoloration are both responsive to hydrogen peroxide for the same reason it works against mold on a bathroom surface. The oxygen release disrupts the cellular structure of the fungus and interrupts its ability to survive and spread. Fill a shallow basin or a clean dishpan with equal parts 3% hydrogen peroxide and warm water. Soak your feet for 20 minutes. Soak your feet for 20 minutes. Do this every evening for 2 weeks when dealing with active fungus, and twice a week after that as a maintenance habit. For nail discoloration specifically, soak a cotton ball in undiluted hydrogen peroxide and hold it against the affected nail for 10 minutes each evening. Results take time. Nail tissue grows slowly, and the discoloration exists in layers. Give it 4 to 6 weeks of consistent treatment before drawing any conclusions about whether it is working. Here is what it will not do. And I want to be straight about this because it matters. A severe or deeply embedded nail fungus infection, one where the nail is crumbling, thickening heavily, or separating from the nail bed, needs a doctor and likely a prescription treatment. Hydrogen peroxide handles early-stage discoloration and surface fungus well. The kind that has not yet worked its way deep into the nail structure responds to it reliably. The kind that has gone deep does not, and pretending otherwise would not be honest or helpful. Catching it early, as with most things in a home and a body, is the whole advantage. Number 4, whitening yellowed laundry without bleach. Bleach is hard on fabric over time. It weakens the threads and ruins color on anything that is not pure white, and the mountain women never trusted it for their good linens or their everyday cotton. What they used for brightening was an oxygen soak, and hydrogen peroxide is exactly that in a form available at any grocery store for less than $2. Add 1 cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide to your washing machine drum before loading the clothes. Add your regular laundry soap on top. Wash on warm for the best results. For anything heavily yellowed, old pillowcases, undershirts, linen dish towels that have gone dingy, soak the item in a basin of cold water with half a cup of hydrogen peroxide for 30 minutes before washing. That pre-soak is what lifts the set-in yellowing that the wash cycle alone will not reach. That pre-soak is what lifts the set-in yellowing that the wash cycle alone will not reach. The peroxide works with the warm water to brighten the fibers without degrading them the way bleach does over repeated use. The cost of treating a full load of laundry this way is less than 25 cents. Sun-drying after the wash doubles the brightening effect. The women in this hollow always knew that. Hang them on the line in full sun and let the light finish what the peroxide started. It is not complicated at all, just simple chemistry at work. It is chemistry and open air and common sense working together, and it costs almost nothing beyond the willingness to hang a load outside. What it will not lift is yellowing that has been baked in by a hot dryer over many cycles. Heat bonds that kind of staining to the fiber, and hydrogen peroxide cannot undo what heat has already set. Catch it early before the dryer runs on it a dozen times, and you will not have a problem worth worrying about. Number 3, treating minor ear discomfort and earwax buildup. The ear canal is a warm, enclosed space that accumulates wax naturally as part of its own cleaning process. The problem comes when wax builds up faster than it moves out on its own, or when moisture gets trapped in the canal after swimming or bathing and creates the conditions for minor bacterial irritation. Hydrogen peroxide addresses both situations through the same oxidizing action that makes it effective everywhere else. Tilt your head to one side. Using a clean dropper or a soaked cotton ball held gently at the opening of the canal, let 3 to 5 drops of 3% hydrogen peroxide run in. Stay tilted for 5 minutes to let it work properly. The fizzing sensation you will feel is the peroxide reacting to the wax and organic debris in the canal. That reaction is the method working. After 5 minutes, tilt your head the other way over a cloth or tissue and let it drain. Follow with a few drops of warm water to rinse, then drain again. For wax buildup, doing this twice a week for 2 weeks softens and loosens the accumulation enough that the ear clears itself naturally. For minor irritation after swimming, the damp, low-level ache that settles in after time in the water, a single treatment often resolves it within a day. And now the honest limits, because they matter more here than in most of the other uses on this list. This is not a treatment for a real ear infection with fever, significant pain, or discharge that needs a doctor without question. And if you have ever had a perforated eardrum or any ear surgery, do not use this method without speaking to your physician first. The ear canal leads somewhere important, and hydrogen peroxide should not reach past a healthy eardrum. Within those limits, though, it is one of the most gentle and effective things you can reach for when the ear feels blocked or irritated from moisture. 2 numbers remain for the end. Number 2 will surprise some of you, not because it is unusual, but because of how much better it works than what you are likely using right now. And number 1, the use that earned the top of this list, is the one I have been carrying with me since a night on this homestead that I have not forgotten and do not expect to. That is where we are headed. Number 2, mold and mildew removal on grout and caulk. Go look at the grout lines in your shower. Not the tiles themselves, the lines between them. If you see gray or black staining working its way into the surface, what you are looking at is mold that has found a warm, damp, poorly ventilated place to settle and grow. The stores will sell you a spray for $8 or $9 that smells like a chemical plant and comes with a warning label longer than the instructions. What the job actually requires is the $2 brown bottle and 10 minutes of patience. Pour undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide directly onto the grout. Do not dilute it. Do not mix it with anything else. Let it sit for 10 full minutes. The bubbling you will see is the oxygen releasing, and it means the peroxide is doing exactly what it is supposed to do, oxidizing the mold at the surface and breaking down its cellular structure. After 10 minutes, scrub with an old toothbrush or a stiff bristled brush and rinse. For grout that has been stained for a long time, 2 or 3 consecutive days of this treatment will work through the layers that a single application cannot fully reach. Done once a week in a humid bathroom, you will not see that black creeping back. What it will not do is restore bright white grout that has been dark for years. Nothing will accomplish that without physical abrasion or replacement. The honest purpose of this method is to stop the mold from spreading further and to lift the surface layer of it cleanly, which it does reliably and for almost no cost. That is a worthwhile thing, even if it does not deliver a miracle. The caulk lines around the tub and the base of the shower respond to the same treatment. Spray or pour the peroxide along the caulk, let it sit, scrub gently. Caulk is softer than grout, and a stiff brush can damage it if you press too hard. Then rinse. If the caulk has mold growing beneath its surface, visible as dark staining that does not lift after several treatments, the caulk itself needs to be removed and replaced. No cleaning method reaches mold that has gotten under the caulk line. Hydrogen peroxide will keep the surface clean and slow the progression, but it cannot fix what is already behind the material. My mother kept the bathroom in our old farmhouse clean with white vinegar and hard work, and she never had a mold problem worth speaking of. The combination of regular cleaning and a material that actually kills rather than just wipes was the whole of her method. Hydrogen peroxide is a step further than the vinegar, more effective against mold specifically, but the underlying principle she worked from was identical. Clean it before it establishes itself, and it never gets the chance to become a real problem. Number 1, wound cleaning and infection prevention. This is the one. And before I tell you the story I promised, let me tell you what the method actually is, plainly and specifically, because the story only means something if you understand what you are doing and why it works. When hydrogen peroxide is poured into an open wound, the enzyme catalase present in blood and in the cells of living tissue, causes the peroxide to break down rapidly and release oxygen. That rapid release is what creates the foaming you see. The oxygen kills anaerobic bacteria, which are the kind that cannot survive in the presence of oxygen and are among the most dangerous bacteria a wound can harbor. It also mechanically lifts debris, dirt, and dead tissue out of the wound through that foaming action, cleaning the site more thoroughly than water alone can manage. Use 3% hydrogen peroxide only. Never a stronger concentration on open tissue. Pour it directly into the wound and let it foam fully. Do not wipe it away while it is still actively foaming. When the foaming subsides, rinse gently with clean water, pat dry with a clean cloth, and bandage properly. For ongoing wound care, apply once or twice a day and watch carefully for any sign of spreading redness, heat, swelling, or fever. Any of those signs means infection is establishing itself and needs medical attention without delay. Now, the night I promised to tell you about. It was late autumn, several years back. The roads down through the hollow were icy, and the light was already gone by late afternoon the way it goes in the mountains when the season turns. I had been splitting kindling on the back porch, and a piece of wood kicked back hard off the block and opened a long gash along the heel of my left hand. Not a small cut, the kind that bleeds in a steady, serious way and does not show any interest in stopping on its own. My husband had the truck up at the barn, a quarter-mile up the ridge in the dark and the ice. The nearest hospital was 40 minutes on roads I would not have wanted to drive in daylight that evening, let alone after dark on frozen gravel. So I stood at the kitchen sink and I made decisions the way women in these mountains have always made decisions when the nearest help is far away and the problem is standing right in front of them. I packed the hand with clean cloth and held pressure for a long time. When the bleeding finally slowed, I cleaned that wound with 3% hydrogen peroxide, poured it in, watched it foam, let it finish, poured it again. I bandaged it properly with what the house had, which was enough, because I have always kept what the house needs. And for the following week, I cleaned it twice a day with the peroxide, watching the wound carefully every single time for any sign that infection was trying to take hold. It healed clean, no spreading redness, no fever, no infection, no icy drive to an emergency room in the dark. Now I am going to be plain with you, the way I always am, because that matters more to me than sounding impressive. Hydrogen peroxide does not replace medical care. Serious wounds, deep punctures, wounds that will not stop bleeding after sustained pressure, anything near a joint or showing signs of infection, need a doctor, and sometimes they need stitches, and there is no home method that changes that. What I'm telling you is that on that specific night, in those specific circumstances, knowing exactly what that bottle could do and having it within arm's reach made the difference between a wound that healed cleanly at home and something that could have gone considerably worse. That is what the old knowledge is for. Not to replace the doctor, to carry you through the gap between the problem and the help, with competence instead of panic. Here is what to take away and put into practice. 1 large bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide, 32 ounces, costs around $3 at any pharmacy or grocery store. Fill 3 small labeled spray bottles from it. 1 for the bathroom, 1 under the kitchen sink, 1 in the laundry room. Store the large bottle in a cool, dark cabinet because light degrades hydrogen peroxide over time and darkness keeps it potent far longer than an open shelf will. Buy 3% concentration, the standard brown bottle sold everywhere. Nothing stronger than 3% belongs in a household cleaning or personal care routine. Use the bathroom bottle on grout and caulk once a week, on the toilet bowl every cleaning day, on the door seals once a month. Use the kitchen bottle on the cutting board after every session involving raw meat, down the drain once a week, across the refrigerator shelves once a month, and in a basin for produce before it goes into the refrigerator. Use the laundry bottle in the drum with every white load and as a pre-soak for anything yellowed and in need of bringing back. Keep the original brown bottle accessible for the ear treatment when you need it, for the toothbrush soak once a week, and for wound care, always within reach, always at 3%, always labeled clearly so nobody in the house reaches for it without knowing what it is. $3. 3 spray bottles, 13 uses across every room in the house and for the body that lives inside it. There is no profit in telling you this, which is exactly why nobody with a product to sell ever has. Subscribe if you want to keep getting this kind of help. There is more coming, and it will not cost you anything but the time it takes to watch. Leave me a comment and tell me which of these 13 surprised you most, and tell me where you are watching from. Every comment that comes in, I read. What is coming next is something the mountain women did with white vinegar and wood ash that most people have replaced with an expensive product that does not work half as well. That is a story worth staying for. Keep your home the way the women who built this knowledge kept theirs, with what is already on the shelf, with the understanding of why it works, and with the kind of care that does not need to be bought. That brown bottle has been waiting in your cabinet a long time. Now you know what it can do.